All right, Bang Bang, welcome to another episode of The Dog Walk. Very, very excited for today's guest. It is Hard Factor Pat. He is part of our, do you say news? What do we say here, Pat?
Yeah, Barstool News Network. Yeah, part
All
of the Barstool News Network. I do the news.
All right, because there's a big big difference between the news and the P word, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, politics spreads into news, right? So, but yeah, mostly news.
Yeah. So, Pat, I met you last summer, and you were in Chicago for a wedding, and we just got to talking, casual stuff, and you dropped on me here something that I was just fascinated by, and I think a lot of people obviously are in on this now because if you watched the Behind the Blog, which is very good, if you didn't see it, you should go watch it with KFC. It's the fact that you are tied to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise.
I am, in fact, Eddie. But also, you dropped on me two things that surprised the shit out of me, which is a shot of Malort's and then still the best sandwich that I've ever had in my life was a Chicago hot beef from that place down the street from y'all's office.
Really? You like that, huh? The beef?
I've never had anything like it in my life. I mean, it really. I know that, guys from Chicago, it's cold up there, so you got to have food. You pride yourself on your good food or whatever. You always talk about your pizza and shit. But I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Sandwich guys, okay. Blew me away, bro. And also, it was like walking into a Martin Scorsese movie with that what was the name of the place we went to?
It's called Fiore's, yeah. It's just right down the block, and it's just like a little deli kind of thing that pops up in the middle of nowhere.
Blew me away, bro.
That's great. I didn't know you liked the beef so much. Next time you come, there's like so many other different spots that like you'll really enjoy too.
I'd like to eat one every day when I'm there, if possible.
Dude, that'd be great. We could definitely arrange that. Yeah, and then obviously the shot of Malort. That's
Yeah, Malort's I didn't find so bad. I feel like there's a bit of people. I feel like people put on a bit of a show when they shoot the Malort. It's not good. Don't get me wrong. It's not good, but it is alcohol. So.
Knowing you, though, and what I know about you now, I feel like you've done a lot of bad shots.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've taken a lot of bad shots, Eddie, both literally and figuratively.
Yeah, you don't work in the music business and, just not take a lot of shitty shots, I feel.
Exactly. But, yeah, it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I lucked out and got linked up with the Chainsaw franchise. I had known Kim Hinkle for about 10 years, and he's the original co-creator of the movie. He wrote the movie, produced the original movie, and then wrote and directed the Matthew McConaughey Renee Zellweger one. And Kim was just a bud, and I'd produced a couple films that he had written. And I remember it was like the golden age of television, right? We're living in it right now. And I said, Kim, have you ever thought about doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre TV show? He's like, I actually have. And it's serendipitous you bring this up because the rights to the movie and the television rights are reverting right now, like they were getting them back. And this was like in 2017, I want to say. So I was like, dude, fuck it. Like, can I help you do this? In the past, he had mostly just licensed the rights out to other studios to do it. I was like, why don't we form a company to manage the rights and bring it back to its roots? So that's what we did. So me, Kim, and then his son Ian, who's one of my best buds, actually live with down here in Austin, Texas. If you check out my cribs, you'll see Ian. He's like my personal trainer, but also my business partner. But yeah, so we formed a company to manage the rights, and then we just produced the new film. It's in the can. I think that's breaking news. We just wrapped it. And today, actually, which is super cool, if you're a Call of Duty fan, you can put a Leatherface skin on your players. You can put a Leatherface mask on your players today.
Oh, damn. That's awesome. And
yeah.
now, this is what I want to do as well, Pat. Besides talk about the movie, I kind of want to talk about how all the movie shit works. Because
Sure.
I think a lot of people are, I don't want to say confused, they just don't know. So what did Kim have? So Kim, they own the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, right?
Right, yeah. So the way that it works, okay, let's say, Eddie, you and me are writing a movie, right? It's called Eddie and Pat's Big Adventure to Furious. And we write that movie together. And then someone comes in and says, we're going to pay for you guys to make this movie. We're going to fund this movie. We would start an LLC, and we'd call it Eddie and Pat Sandwich LLC. It's called a sole purpose LLC. And every movie does this, right? So they make a business just to make that movie. So any check that gets written during that film will be from that single purpose LLC, right? That LLC, for the most part, maintains the copyright to the film, right? Like the actual, the copyright to the actual media. And that LLC usually gets half of the movie, and then the investor side, the people that come in and put the money in, get the other half of the movie. So Kim and Toby Hooper, who wrote and directed the movie, they formed that single purpose LLC, and they've maintained the rights to that since 1973.
Wow.
Whereas a lot of horror franchises have sold their copyright to other studios and stuff, Chainsaw and Kim have been pretty steadfast about saying, this is our thing. We'll license you the rights to make one movie or two movies, but we're never giving it up, which is really cool.
Oh, wow. Awesome. So in 2017, you said the licensing was up, or you just got cut in? Or
Exactly. The licensing had reverted. So essentially, there was a provision in the contract, a release provision with the people that had the rights at the time, and they had to put another movie out, but they didn't put it out in time. Pretty much all the guys that own Chainsaw are lawyers. They're all Texas lawyers, like all the original investors. So they're pretty litigious dudes, and they're smart. And when you go out to Hollywood, they very much want to fuck you. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean, everyone's trying to fuck the yokels from Texas that still have this crown jewel in the horror space. So there's always, they put together a lot of smart contracts, and one of them is a release minimum, and the people that had the rights didn't meet the release minimum. So the rights reverted back to Kim, and I was like, Kim, dude, fuck these guys that keep just boning you. Let's do something, let's form a company around this and do it ourselves, and kind of try to parlay that into bigger plays. So that's what I've been doing for the last 3 years, is essentially trying to play the Hollywood game with the rights. And yeah, it's been cool. We partnered with Legendary Pictures, who did Batman, The Hangover. They did all the Godzillas, Pacific Rim, King Kong. They're a big studio.
Awesome. And that sounds like the best way, I guess, I think of that. I don't know. It's so stupid too. I don't know if you saw the Entourage movie.
Oh yeah, bro. I was a huge Entourage guy.
Did you see that where they what Haley Joel Osment's character is he's like the stupid Texas yokel, and they're like, we got to get funding from this fucking guy, you know?
Exactly, man. It's funny when you go out there. It's just so weird because it's Hollywood has become very decentralized because of the production in Georgia. So Georgia has the best tax credit. So it's the cheapest place to make movies right now. And I just saw an article yesterday. This is really cool. Just a testament to how much production Georgia is doing. A whole new town, a pre-planned community, has popped up right outside of Pinewood, which is the big studio out there. And all the people that live there are actors, writers, directors, producers, makeup people, hair people, because there's so much production there, right? And Hollywood, California, they just couldn't cut the tax breaks to make production lucrative and financially viable there. So it's become really decentralized. But still, unless you're there with them and playing their game, especially if you're coming out from Texas, you can just tell the way they perceive you, which is okay, boys, yeah, nice to meet you, boys. Okay. And Kim, it was funny. So Kim had done this 10 times probably since 1973. And every time I'd gone to Hollywood, I had made a movie, and it was, okay, let's go sell the movie, right? And every time I'd gone out there, it was very much me trying to beat the door down. Hey, can I please get a meeting? Hey, will you please take a look at this? And when I went out with Chainsaw, the doors just shot open, and people were like, come on in. You got this, you got this lucrative franchise. Come on in. You want a water? You want some Coke? And you're like, okay. And Kim, who's done it 10 times, was like, boys, they're going to fuck you. And everything that he predicted would happen has happened and continues to happen. Oh, it's like clockwork. He's like, they're going to say this, and then this is going to happen. They're going to try to do this, and then that's going to happen.
Can you give me an example of what's the most classic fucking that Hollywood does? What's to a T, it's this is going to happen.
I'll give you an example of what they did to Kim on maybe 2-3 movies ago. Kim had written a script, right? And it was the new Chainsaw movie. And a studio came sniffing around who wanted to license the rights. And the lawyer that was working the deal at the time was pretty smart, really smart guy. And he put in all these provisions and stuff that essentially the studio had to purchase Kim's script from him, which they did. So that's great. So not only are they licensing the rights, but they're also purchasing Kim's version of the script. Now, we didn't know that, but they just threw that script away. So essentially they just paid an extra $300,000 or whatever for the script just to placate Kim. And he had approval rights on that deal. So essentially, before the script could be approved to go into production, Kim had to sign off on it. And that's a big deal. In Hollywood, they'll write things mutual approval with the studio tiebreak, which essentially means that you have nothing. Because if the studio's tie-breaking, then ultimately it's their decision, right? But if you have firm approval, that's really good. And the lawyer was able to get that for Kim. And here's what they did. They sent Kim the script, and then they said, we need this approved within 4 hours or the movie's not happening. So they could have sent it to him weeks and weeks before, but they essentially painted him into a corner and said, do you want your check? Well, then approve this whether you like it or not. They do things like that, which is fucked up.
Wow. So you really got to care about your work versus how bad do you want to check?
I mean, another thing is, so when Kim made the 1994 film, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Return of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, also known as The Next Generation, this is pretty interesting. So he cast Matthew McConaughey in his first movie ever, and he cast Renee Zellweger in her first movie ever. So McConaughey had shot Dazed and Confused, but nothing had come out. And it was a really small movie. So Kim was the casting director. I asked him one time, I said, who cast your movie, your Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation? He goes, I did. I was a casting director. It was a little independent movie. I was like, so what are the odds that you cast 2 future Oscar winners out of the University of Texas? He's like, it's pretty fucking crazy, right? So the movie comes out, and then right after it comes out in theaters, they pretty quickly realized that Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger were going to be big stars, like mega stars. I think they were waiting for A Time to Kill to come out for McConaughey, and then Jerry Maguire was about to come out for Renee Zellweger. So very smartly, Columbia TriStar said, "Oh, let's pull it back. Like let's pull it back. That's why it has a different title." And this was the 90s. You could do things like that. So it was out for a week. Let's pull it from theaters and let's re-release it in 9 months when these 2 guys are mega stars. Well, McConaughey's agent at the time said, "Nah, all right, man." And he essentially crushed the movie. So Hollywood crushed this little Texas movie that these people had made and ruined the release of it. I think it was released in I want to say 100 theaters. It should have been released in 3,000.
Wow.
Because the representatives of the 2 lead actors said this is going to hurt their career. So they fucked it.
That sucks.
There was a big lawsuit about it. It was really terrible, man. But that's what Hollywood will do to you.
Yeah, that's part of the game. That reminds me of the there's a Leo movie that's unreleased. That's never.
I've seen that Leo movie. It's called Plum's App. I could look the name.
Don's Plum or something like that.
So Don's Plum. So I've seen it. You can email the filmmaker, and he will send you a link to it.
Really?
Yeah. I recommend anyone who wants to see it, you can do it. If you search Don's Plum, there's a website, Don's Plum Movie, and then there's an email at the bottom, and it say, hey, if you email me, I'll send you the link, and the guy will send you a link. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like him and Tobey Maguire and Kevin Connolly. It's just never seen the light
I guess
of day.
they had said that, so a lot of the scenes were improvised, and those guys were in the Pussy Patrol, right? So that was literally the name of their crew. Eddie, I wish that if you and I had a crew, it'd be called the Pussy Patrol, but unfortunately it wouldn't. It'd be called the Hot Beef Sandwich Club. But those guys, which means a whole different thing when it comes to... Anyway, those guys, I guess, were improving their scenes, and it was a little bit too close to how they actually treated women. So it got crushed. But
Ooh.
that's my point. The Don's Plum guy, he built up a relationship and developed these relationships with these actors so that he could have them in his movie in the same way that Kim didn't have a lot of money, but his investor Bob Kuhn took a shot and put $1 million down and paid Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger, guys who couldn't get jobs at the time. They paid them, so they should have the right to exploit that media in a way that's beneficial. But sometimes they'll fuck you, man.
Yeah, they'll fuck you. That's exactly right. So the rights revert, like you said. So it's 2017. You're like, hey Kim, let's just do it. Let's just do it with us. Now, do you take scripts from anybody? How do you get that? How does the script process work?
So the script part is hard, right? We knew that we wanted to make a movie with a studio, right? Just because you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, right? You're going to get the biggest P&A, prints and advertising spend. You're going to get the biggest distribution, as many theaters as possible. So we had, before we'd gone to the studio, went to our agents and said, hey, do you have any suggestions on writers? And they gave us a list of writers, and we went to CAA, who's not our agent, and they gave us a list of writers. We went to William Morris, they gave us a list. We went to pretty much all the agencies, and they were like, hey, here are the people that we think might be interested in this. And we started talking to a couple different writers. I was also talking to a couple writers that I knew from Texas that are like legit guys, but they're guys that I have like a good relationship with. And yeah, we just kind of popped around to a couple different folks, and then you just hear a pitch. So you go into a room and someone's like, hey, this is how I would approach the film. And sometimes you tell them a bunch of stuff. Sometimes you tell them nothing just to see like what they'll come up with. Sometimes you tell them like, hey, I kind of have this idea about how it should be. Sometimes you just say, let's just hear cold what their take would be based upon what they know about the existing canon of the film franchise. So then they pitch, and then you say, I like this guy. Can we work a deal out?
Interesting. And now, is this something where, like, are you allowed to release like a brief synopsis? Like, did you have something in your head of what you guys wanted or no?
Yeah. So, some stuff came out.
Okay.
No, some stuff came out from the casting. Essentially, so this is a direct sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. So, I guess the best way to think about it is Leatherface is old. That's really all I can say, I guess.
Okay. All right. So Leatherface is old. Okay. And I think I saw something on the Wikipedia about that, so it's kind of semi out there already. Like
Right.
Yeah,
I never know what I can say, what I can't, again, because I'm the yokel, Eddie. And like, even though the info's out there, I don't want them to be like, these Texas boys are leaking info. Yeah.
Shouldn't have made a deal with a guy who does a news podcast with a major media company.
I know. Well, I kept my mouth shut for a long time. You know, it's funny. I told KFC this, but when we went out to take offers on the TV show, the only person that passed was Chernin. So like, and I just started working at Barstool. Chernin wasn't in the room, but his company passed, and I just started working at Barstool. I was like, that's ironic, man. That's really.
Did he know you worked at Barstool or no?
No, I kept my mouth shut on it. I tried to separate church and state.
Yeah, it's a smart idea. I'd say that's a good idea. So that's interesting. So, all right. So take that for what you will. Direct sequel, and I think that's a theme right now, right? Like that's what Halloween did, I believe.
So that's specifically why we did this, right? So we're still in development on a television show, and that was our main goal. We essentially thought, like, because the last Chainsaw movie came out and went straight to DVD, right, which is partly why we got the rights back.
Was that the Leatherface one?
Yeah, yeah, Leatherface, which is great because it's like, cool, I didn't want a film that wasn't at the level we wanted it to be widely released. So whatever, it comes, it goes, it gets forgotten. We had thought it's time to give the franchise a break from theatrical film releases for a while. Like, let's go into television. Like, let's explore a different medium. So that was our main goal, and that's what we're still doing. However, in between when we started pitching TV and now, Halloween came out, the David Gordon Green, Danny McBride remake. And that did so well. It really like reignited the industry's belief that you could do one of the major horror franchises in theaters these days. And that was right after we'd done our deal with Legendary. Legendary was like, oh man, shit, maybe we should explore this as well. So we started simultaneously developing a film with our television show. And then just because of COVID and stuff, not a lot of people are making TV shows right now just because the production length is 6 to 9 months where you can make a movie in, 45 days. So you have it's just a smarter investment because if you get shut down on a TV show, who knows if you'll ever pick it up again, And
competitively, I feel like everything's flipping TV where it might just be a good idea from that angle, right? I don't know.
Yeah, you know what's been really cool? Did you see The King of Staten Island?
I did.
Right, so that was like the first big film to come out during COVID that would have gone to theaters, and it did really fantastically. And the same deal with I forget the name of the film, but it's the new movie from Gerard Butler's that's coming out is doing really well on VOD. And it used to be that VOD was a death sentence, like it was a bad thing. There's been a couple films that have crushed. Like there was a movie called Margin Call that came out, I want to say like 5-6 years ago, and that was the first VOD movie to have a big star in it. That was they cast Kevin Spacey. They did what's called a stunt cast. They paid him $100,000 for a day, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And because people were like, "Oh, what is this? It's a Kevin Spacey movie." That's when Spacey should have been in theaters. Anything that he's doing, but it's coming straight to VOD. Let me check it out. So some hacks have worked back in the day, but for the most part, it was a death sentence. But now, like, I don't know, man. I think that people are so hungry for movies, and if you hit a VOD release during COVID, it might be a big win because television is super competitive.
Interesting. So that's on the table, or you don't know? Obviously, it's too hard to predict where it's going to go.
It's tough to say, man. It's. I think the new Liam Neeson movie did like $3 million at the box office this week. Like that's real bad. Yeah. We'll see, man. But I mean, I still think there's going to be a major fallout in the film business because of COVID. There's just the theaters can't sustain.
Do you have that makes me very sad. I'm a big theater guy. And,
man. It's sad, right? Are you a big theater guy?
I am. Yeah, I got the pass and everything, and I just like to go. To me, it's one of the few places left where I could keep my phone in my pocket and never take it out. You know what I mean? And I value that, so I value the theater in turn.
I totally agree with you, man. I find myself like watching stuff at home. Like I started watching the trial of the Chicago 7, and I fell asleep twice and like took a phone call 3 times. Like it took me like 4 watches to get through it. I still haven't finished Parasite. Like I very much appreciate the theater too, because it's like you're locked into that experience. You're going to consume the art as it's meant to be consumed, right?
Yeah, and it's, to me, there's certain things I care about enough to like I want to see this in a certain way, right? Like I went to go see. I saw The Irishman in theaters.
In theaters, cool.
Yes. Yeah. Just because I was like, this is Scorsese. This is the boys' last run. Same thing with Halloween. Like, I want to see, I saw the original. They were playing the original, I think, last Halloween. And I was like, all right, I want to see the original Halloween on the big screen, see how that is, So there's certain things. And, Texas for me personally, would play into that as well, Certainly any of the big four, Freddy or Jason or whatever,
we've been seeing a pretty interesting resurgence over the last 5 months of drive-ins, man. Like I'm getting an email every day with 15 new drive-ins that are playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Really?
It's been cool, yeah. Like by far, we've done the most theatrical business on the movie that we've done in years and years and years on the original film. This year.
You own everything then, so you're in on everything. What's your exact title though, Pat? Is there
so I'm the vice president of Exurbia Films, and Exurbia Films is the management company for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise.
Okay, so you're the vice president, and then I assume Kim is the president.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're the VP. So anything from here, like any Texas decision, like merch, like merchandise. Like
so I oversee all the merchandising, all the licensing. We're launching our official site, so we're gonna have our own line that's like Kim approved. But like if you see anything in stores, like the Halloween down to the Halloween costumes, like I approve like the Leatherface mask. We work with the designers on stuff like the Call of Duty drop that came out today. Like we worked hours and hours and hours with Activision trying to get Leatherface right and concepting different things. And yeah.
Damn. That's interesting. So what if someone puts a Leatherface shirt in the Barstool store? You'll be.
Oh yeah, I don't want to talk about that because sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. You know, Eddie. No, the piracy thing is weird. Like, dude, last year piracy was like out of fucking control. But
as far as Texas goes.
Yeah, well, everything really, because the print-on-demand business. So, like, print-on-demand changed the game. Where, like, it used to be if you want to make a shirt, you have to go to a screen printer, print a minimum of 50, and then you're holding stock, right? But the business changed completely because the technology for some fan to upload a random design to, like, Redbubble, for example. Fuck those guys, by the way. To upload a design to Redbubble. Then some other fan orders that shirt. Redbubble has a robot printer that can screen a one-off of that shirt and ship it to you and still make a profit on it. So that technology came about and allowed for one-off printing to be profitable, which like made the piracy business just on everything explode like crazy.
It was big time. Now, is it how about you mentioned in the behind the blog that was it Kim who got fucked? Like when they're like, oh, like he should be super. You said he got fucked at some point during the process.
Oh yeah, so right? the Colombo crime family controlled the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for its first 12 years of life, which is crazy. So
that's insane.
It's nuts, right, man? So did you ever see the movie Deep Throat? You know the porno Deep Throat?
I don't think I have.
It's a classic, Eddie.
Okay.
Come on, it was under your dad's bed. You might have just never found it.
No, I don't think I have. But
well, they made a couple movies like Loveless with Amanda Seyfried was about Lydia Loveless who was in that film, and They've made a couple of documentaries. The documentaries are worth checking out. Also, the porno is too, but it's a little bit dated. But so Deep Throat was very successful, right? Like it was majorly successful, and it played in theaters. It was like a crossover porno, honestly. That's how big it was. So like there were porno theaters, but people would go check it out as like a gag or a lark. People that weren't normally the cats that would go to porno theaters would go check out Deep Throat. So it did really well. And that was a company called Bryanston, right? And Bryanston was owned by the Colombo crime family. And those guys decided they made so much money on Deep Throat that they would go into legit filmmaking. And they acquired the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee classic, the same year. Now, if you watch the Deep Throat documentary, you'll hear that like they would do a deal with a theater owner on Deep Throat. Like, hey, whatever, a 60-40 split on the tickets, let's say. But before the theater owner could like do the accounting and give the split over to Bryanston, two mobsters would be in the lobby and just take the whole gate. Like that's what they would do. So like they didn't give a shit. It was very much mafia film distribution. But ultimately, Bob Kuhn, who we lost 2 weeks ago to COVID, unfortunately, who's the original investor in the film, the Chainsaw Massacre, was also a really prominent and very cool and badass lawyer. And he went to New York and went to war with the mob and got the rights back.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, you got to... This is the next franchise, I feel, a story on this.
Yeah, no, it's cool, man. Bob is nuts, man. He was one time arrested by the FBI and defended himself and won for a crime he didn't commit, but he defended himself. And yeah, it's crazy. Cowboy lawyer. Rest in peace, Bob Kuhn. We lost him. Yeah, unfortunately, COVID.
Oh man. And now, what is in your eyes, like, have you just always been like a horror movie guy, or this is just something that you just movies? So you're like, I like the franchise enough, or where do you stand?
Oh, I remember. So I saw the movie. Funny enough, with like one of the vice presidents of UFC way back in the day when we were kids. Like we went to the store. His parents were like, "What movie do you want to rent?" We saw the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it was scarring for sure. But I got into horror movies, I guess, because like I knew that it was a pathway to making film. Like that was the thing, was like all this really good stuff, like The Evil Dead, specifically The Evil Dead and Chainsaw, and all these kind of B movies, and like Brian De Palma's Carrie. Like there's all these films that were indies, and you could watch them as a kid, and they were fantastic. And my brother, who's like a savant at film, he's an encyclopedia, he would show me all this stuff. And he'd be like, oh, like I remember watching Evil Dead, and he's like, yeah, so that was Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi and Robert Tapert. Like those dudes made the movie. And I'm like, that, like the guy on screen and this other guy, Robert Tapert, they made the movie. And my brother was like, yeah, like they were working day jobs so they could shoot at night. And he just knew like these little bits of stories about filmmaking, and they were the ones that seemed possible were all horrors. So I just kind of like gravitated towards that, and I knew that was a platform, because if you make a drama or a comedy or an action film, those films are very much star-based, right? So for any consumer to watch them or want to watch them, they need to have a star. They need to have a recognizable face in it. The horror is the star, right? So that's why you can have those movies that are completely, cast with unknowns, and they can still be really wildly successful. So I always knew that was like my path in. Right, so the first couple films I made were horrors, and then like finally I made a film that wasn't, and then this chainsaw thing came up, so I went right back into it. But
little did you know that the fucking whole genre would have a resurgence, right? Like it's crazy
right,
now.
exactly. It's just it's the genre that you can make the cheapest, and you partly because you don't need stars, and and it's the easiest to do independently. Like, okay, a great example is like Paranormal Activities, like. Jason Blum, by the way, Blumhouse, you see that name everywhere. That was his baby. That's how he made Get Out. That's how he made the new Good Lord Bird on Showtime. That's why it says there's the Blumhouse world or whatever when you log on Amazon Prime now. It's because Blum bought a movie that someone made for $14,000 in Paranormal Activity. No stars, shot on a fucking handy cam, and it blew up. That's what horror can do. It's pretty rare any other genre can do that.
And Blumhouse has fucking grown insanely since then.
Yeah, they did the new Halloween. We went and pitched them on Chainsaw, and that was like the most electric meeting I think I've ever been in.
Well, can you give a little bit of insight there?
Yeah, so Jason Blum is like he's just like he's a passionate dude, and our pitch, I guess what I'm saying is it's okay. So the pitch that we were doing was meant to surprise you. So it's Kim pitching a certain thing. I can't really say what it is. Pitching a certain thing about a certain truth, some stuff that people have never heard before. And it's like a 5 to 7 minute pitch of this like really interesting story. And then at the end, Kim is like, it's bullshit. And when he said that to Jason Blum, like he like did like a backflip pretty much. and then he was like, get the rest of the team in here. He's just a passionate dude. And he invented the genre, like the model right now of like making 10 movies for $2 million and then one of them making $100 million and covering all the rest of them. Like he's the fucking king.
Dude, yeah. What they've done is just insane. Like it's just everything. You see like something spooky flashes up and you see that Blumhouse kind of thing. So that's I did have interest in that. Now is that like so they're like the main guys in like the horror, like what's another big player
in horror? I mean, Sam Raimi's producer Robert Tapper does a lot of stuff. Sam Raimi produces a lot of stuff, who directed Evil Dead and Spider-Man. But no, it's Blumhouse, man. I'll tell you what, like when you're young, like when I was like 22 and starting to produce movies, everyone around you's 22 and you don't give a shit about money. So so the amount of money that it takes to make a movie is lower than the amount of money it takes to make a movie when you're 32. Just because like you're willing to ask people to work for nothing when you're younger, because you're working for nothing and you've never seen money, tasted it, you don't know anything about it. As you get older and your class of guys or gals have kids and families, it's a lot harder to be like, hey bro, will you come work for $100 a day? It gets harder, right?
Yeah. And
because of that, a lot of people like they don't even fuck with making low budget films as they get older, because it's a headache, bro. It is a lot. You're leveraging social capital in a big way because you don't have actual capital. Like, Eddie, if we were 21 and I was like, hey bro, do you want to come help on this movie? It's free. I can't pay you. You might be like, hell yeah. It's like today, if I said that to you, you'd be like, bro, I got to pay rent.
It's different.
So Blumhouse is like the only guy that can still do that shit. Like my cousin was a grip on like The Purge 3. My cousin's a big time dolly grip in New York. He does like, he's on Law and Order pretty much every day, but he did a favor for a friend and was working on The Purge, and he needed black wrap, which is like essentially like really heavy duty black tinfoil that you use to shape lights. And it's expensive, but it's nothing. Right. And he went to the production manager and he's like, hey, I need more black wrap. And my cousin is like 53 years old. He's been a dolly grip professionally for 25 years. He's at the top of his game. He's doing a favor on a Blumhouse movie. And the production manager is like 25 years old. It's like, oh no, what we gave you, that's it. Like, and he was like, are you kidding me? But like, it's shit like that you don't want to have to do as you get older. Right. But he figured out a way to like, just swallow his pride and work really fucking hard and do that hard thing and make those low budget films that went on to succeed.
Damn. And explain what a grip is for people that wouldn't
A grip is a person that moves set operations. So like they would set up specifically like a camera dolly. So like they'd lay dolly track, which a camera dolly, if you ever see a camera moving really smoothly and quickly, it's either on a steady cam or dolly track, right? Which is literally like it's a go-kart that the camera person sits on and the camera is mounted on. It's on track, so it's really smooth. So a dolly grip would like lay that track. He would actually push the go-kart. He or she would also like set up different stands, lights, rigging, set operations.
And like you said, part of the big four, Leatherface, Freddy, Jason, and Michael Myers. What do you know what the other three are owned by? Do you know who they're?
Yeah, so the Jason franchise is in major. It's in a legal battle right now, because I think like the guy that got the story by credit on the Jason franchise went and tried to get his copyright back. So like there's the Copyright Reversion Act of 1976, which essentially says after I think it's 35 years you can get your copyright back if someone else holds it. And this guy had a story by credit, which is like the lowest Writers Guild of America credit on a movie that you can get. It would be like your buddy that kind of threw a couple ideas in the mix and then you went and wrote it. And he went and tried to get the rights back on the movie, creating like a legal battle. So no one owns Jason right now. Wes Craven's estate got Freddy back, which is cool. John Carpenter does not own Halloween. The guy that owns Halloween is this guy that lives in Florida. I forget his name, but I'm in contact with him every once in a while. And then I think is that everyone? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know who. I know that David Gordon Green's doing it at Hellraiser. I think New Line Cinema owns, honestly, 2 of them, though. I think New Line still owns the merchandising rights on Freddy.
Interesting. And what was like the whole industry? Now you said you took 13 meetings, right?
We had 13 offers. We took like 100 meetings. Yeah.
Oh, like 100 meetings, 13 offers. Now, is it because everyone's seeing how it's going? Like it made 700 million, and so did Halloween made over 200. Is it everyone just kind of looking to get back in, huh?
So this was before Halloween. I mean, honestly, it's just so a window kind of closed when the internet came out, man. So like, I don't know if you noticed this, but if you go to see a music festival today, like the big ones, you go to Lollapalooza, you go to Austin City Limits, when they're happening, usually the headliners are bands or artists that were around pre-internet. So they're usually bands or artists that were around when record sales were big and you could become a superstar. And the internet kind of created this situation where you could still make a lot of money, but if you were famous before 2003, you will never, and you got famous after 2003, the after class will never ever be able to be as famous as the before class. It's just not possible, because back then there were less TV channels, there was less options. So essentially whoever the media chose to be the darlings or the big franchises or the big artists, they got all the attention. Now it's a lot more democratized, right? So the reason Hollywood keeps rebooting shit is because you can't fucking invent a household name for a horror franchise anymore. You can't do it. It's impossible. So whenever one of those household names comes around, one of those franchises that made it pre-internet, everyone's ears perk up. It's not just about how Halloween had done recently. It's just like, oh my God, it's just business. It's like, if I put $1 down on this, the odds of me getting $1.50 return are much higher than if I invest in a new idea of an unheard horror character.
Gotcha. That's pretty interesting. Do you feel like anyone post 2003 has come close or no?
Yeah, there's certain instances. And it might be like 2005-ish, but it's that concept that I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know that it's possible. I really don't. Like, that's why you still see Paul McCartney headlining music festivals or Pearl Jam. Yeah. Not as the fucking headliner. I don't know. The media game has changed tremendously, much to our benefit at Barstool. But yeah.
It's a good point. Barstool was founded in 2003, I believe. So
yeah,
there you go. Interesting enough. And now kind of we're towards the end here now. Is there anything kind of else interesting about this whole thing, this whole process that you think, I guess, Stoolies or anyone out there would kind of be, interested to find out?
Yeah. I mean, to the Stoolies, I'd say, like, the number one thing is just believe in yourself and do it. Like, if you want to make a movie, just go make a movie. You don't need to ask permission. You that's something that I've known, because no one ever gave me an opportunity. But now I'm in this position with this franchise, I felt obligated to go and set things up with a larger company, right? And do things big. And I'm glad we did. It's probably going to end up being the right decision. But it's the first time I've ever done that, because it's the first time I ever had something that someone wanted. And I think that a lot of people sit back and say, like, oh, I need someone to come to me and say, hey, give me your film. But they're never going to do that. You need to go make that film, and then they'll say, hey, I want to see it. So just do it. I guess Shia LaBeouf, just fucking do it. But I think that's the main thing. But then also, Eddie, I've been loving the new Dave Portnoy show. Like,
thanks.
It's fantastic. It's the best iteration of it, and you do such an awesome job of it. You do such an awesome job. I also love that you keep asking Dave on purpose, like, really proprietary business information that he almost shares every time, but I'm always like, please, and you're always like, come on, bro, you can just say what the Sears deal was worth.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I kind of blew my spot up here. I would have tried to ask you some of those as well, Pat, but you were ready to go. You're like, I can't say much about what's going to happen with the sequel, because you were probably ready for that. you knew it was.
But
coming.
no, you've been doing an awesome job with it, brother. You're crushing that. You're crushing that. It's fantastic.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And then this is so cool too. And I meant to do this last Halloween, but you know how everything goes, and so it's great to do this right before Halloween. Right now, just talking about this, and you talked about on Behind the Blog with KFC, like how you ate shit for so long in the music business. Is there a sense for you like this is it? Like this is like going to be a huge thing for you?
I think the movie coming out will be a huge thing, but I think that no one's ever satisfied. You know, like I think that whenever you have anything big happen to you professionally, you're working towards it, then it happens, and then you take a day, and then it's not cool anymore, and then you got to find the thing that's cooler. You know, you got to stay humble, obviously, and enjoy the ride. That's what I've been trying to do more and more is enjoy the ride. Like instead of being super stressed out, which I am, I'm a very high strung person. So like whenever it's leading up to one of these big things, like I'm so fucking stressed, and sometimes I'll have to take myself aside and be like, bro, chill, enjoy what's happening to you, because as soon as it's done, the next day it'll be done, it'll be over, and then you'll have to go work towards the next big thing. So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just gonna keep working, stay hungry, keep doing Hard Factor, ultimately, like I think this is setting up for me to make a big fucking movie with Barstool people. Like that's what I'm most excited about, is like going to do an indie film, a comedy, and bring kind of major motion picture making to Barstool. Like that would be dope. That would be cool.
That'd be sick. That'd be very sweet. Pat, thanks, man. This was great. This was fun talking to you. And I'll tell you what,
Eddie, thank you, man.
I would have never known you were a high strung guy. Like you seem like, I don't know if it's the haircut that's fooling me, but you seem like
right,
like just a relaxed, chill guy.
Well, who knows? Hey, I didn't get to ask you, what are your favorite films, real quick?
You know, there's a lot of films, like you said, that are like teenage years that were very, I guess, formative in a way.
You're a Boondock Saints guy, aren't you?
No, I'm not a Boondock Saints guy. I lean more Italian is like I wouldn't ever say like I'm not 100% Italian, but that's my most predominant nationality. So I wasn't allowed to go into school with a bunch of Irish kids. You know, they had a lot of dibs on that.
Bunch of Ray Liotta's.
Yes, exactly. So obviously I love Goodfellas. Some of those comedies like Heavyweights and The Goonies. Just kind of like teen like exploration and just fucking the American Pies were like awesome to me, so I would throw awesome. Like all of those. And I love The Wedding Singer. I think The Wedding Singer, from the characters to the music to just kind of the dialogue, is one of the best movies ever.
Did you know Judd Apatow wrote Heavyweights?
I did, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool, huh?
That's awesome.
How often do you shut a door in a room and say, "Now you can't leave"?
Yeah, that I love A Bronx Tale as well. I love A Bronx Tale. But yeah, so that was. Do you have any? What's your favorites?
Man, probably The Big Lebowski is my favorite movie of all time. Okay. Just any Coen Brothers film, but yeah, it's tough to say, man. You just love it as you see it, right? It's tough to like pick one favorite, but
for sure, it definitely is. But yeah, Pat, thanks again, man. This was fun. We'll have to do it again.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, that's it for today, everybody. We'll catch you next time.